everybody, happy Homebrew Wednesday. It's Brad here at Wild Boys Brewery. What I got going on this week is I'm going to do a little tasting video of my Raspberry Blonde. You can kind of see it's almost got like this pinkish colored head on it. Poured it straight down the middle. It got about a finger head on it and it's kind of falling off now. Just a nice coating on the top. Great glass lacing, which I'm kind of surprised about considering it's got 3 pounds of raspberry puree in it. But I noticed it when I was doing gravity samples on this thing, checking it to see where it was at. It would just coat the inside of the hydrometer beaker, and it does the same thing with glass. It's pink. This is supposed to be a blonde base, and you can see it is pink. The nose on it is just smells like strawberry jam. It's awesome. Just blows your head off with the fruit coming off of it, the raspberry. It smells sweet, tart, little touch of malt in the background. Don't really get any hops per se. They're kind of buried in the raspberry flavor and aroma. Just tons of raspberry. It smells awesome, and I've been drinking on this for a while, so it tastes really good too. The specs on this beer basically are, like I said, it was a blonde ale. Well, I did it with I think it was Great Western 2-row, £1.5 Crystal 15, half pound of carapils, and half pound of acid malt. I have started adding about a half a pound of acid malt to pretty much all my recipes to get my mash pH down close to 5.2. I usually get it somewhere around about 5.4, somewhere around in there, which is pretty close. I don't want to add so much acid malt to it starts having tartness come through. I wasn't so much concerned about it on this beer because adding acid to fruit beers actually helps bring the flavor out in it, which I think might be part of why the raspberry is so pronounced on it. The gap on my meal was a little loose when I did this beer, so I did not get my numbers. So to make up my numbers, I added another pound of cane sugar to it, just to get it up where it should have been to begin with. I get a 1058 on it. It was projected to get a 1056 with the malt, but I didn't get a good crush that time. I've since fixed that problem, but just added a pound of sugar to it to bump it up. The hops on it are UK North Down, 0.26 ounces at 60, and then 2 ounces of Glacier at 1 minute, and that's it. No dry hop. Used 1056 for my yeast, 3 pounds of raspberry puree, half a tablet of World Flock at 10 minutes, and then also 1/4 teaspoon of yeast nutrient at 10 minutes. That's pretty much it. I'll try to remember to post a link to the beer down in the more info section so you guys can go check the recipe out on BrewToad if you want to. So anyway, let's get into this thing. Very nice. It does still taste like a beer. You get some malt. The first thing you get's some combination of a little bit of malt sweetness and a big bunch of raspberry flavor up front. No hops to speak of, just enough to, the hops are kind of just enough to offset the malt bill just so it wasn't super sweet. And then the raspberry puree is pretty tart. And that also lends some tartness to the beer, which is pretty nice. I was talking about the glass lacing. You can see it's just sticking to the side. Very nice, very pleasant drinking beer. I would kind of compare this to a toned down version of Rubaeus. That beer is quite a bit more tart than mine, but they're very similar. Mine's actually more drinkable than that beer because after about 2 of those beers I start getting palate fatigue from the tartness from the raspberry, and I really don't want to drink anymore. This one, you can drink this all day and it doesn't fatigue your palate. It's not quite as tart. Still tastes like a beer. It's got a nice mouthfeel on it. It's real creamy taste, real creamy mouthfeel on it. I'd call it like a kind of a low end of medium to the high end of thin. Nice carbonation. The beer actually kind of coats your tongue like it does the glass as you're drinking it. And the raspberry just lingers on your palate. Goes from being a bit tart up front, and then it transitions with the malt, and the beer taste kind of comes on, and you get the malt sweetness. I'm sure you're getting a little bit of the hops in there, but you can't really pick them out. But if they weren't there, you definitely know it, because the beer would be too cloyingly sweet probably. It finished out at about 5.7 after I added the sugar, and it would have been a 5.9, but the excuse me, the puree, I didn't check the gravity when I put the puree in there. Just kind of guessing, the puree probably had a lower gravity than this beer did starting off with. So I'm just best guesstimate, instead of 5.9, it's probably like 5.6, 5.7. It didn't water the beer down, didn't thin it out. It was pretty nice. Real nice, easy drinker, great summer beer. It's really hot here in North Carolina right now. It's basically pretty much in the low to mid 90s, if not high 90s. Our humidity is through the roof here. We keep 80% humidity and above, usually in the 90s. And this is real nice to come home and take a drink out of. That's pretty much it on that beer. It's a nice, easy drinker, and got a real nice raspberry flavor. I'm digging on it. If you like fruit beers or you like raspberry, definitely check out the recipe and give it a brew and let me know what you think. The only other thing I really got going on is I put my wheat beer on the dry hop. There really ain't anything to show about that. It was, let's see, 2 ounces of Azaka, Dr. Rudy, and lemon drop. And I'm going to let that sit for about 5-6 days, something like that. Then I'm going to keg that up. So I don't know if it'll be ready to do a review on next week or not. If it's not, I'll do it on one after that. Yesterday I brewed. I did a Trois IPA. Trois is a yeast strain that, let's see, it is WLP 644 Saccharomyces Bruxellensis Trois. They used to call this a Brett strain, and then they later on figured out that it's a Saccharomyces strain instead, but it is a very unique Saccharomyces strain that behaves like Brettanomyces. It'll funk the beer up, but it won't contaminate your plastic brew buckets or better bottles, carboys, anything like that. So where it is a Saccharomyces yeast, it's safe for you to use. If you want to play around and do a funky beer, this would be a good strain for you to use if you didn't want to have dedicated equipment just for doing Brett beers or any other type of sour beers. Reading some posts on Milk the Funk, and the guys on there were talking about how nice of an IPA it makes. Throws off a lot of pineapple. The yeast esters on this Trois does. So I wanted to do an IPA, and I used I had a bunch of Cascade and Columbus hops, and that's what I used. And I pretty much did my standard hop schedule with this one. I did first wort hop, and I used 1 ounce Cascade, 60-minute drop, 1 ounce of Columbus, and then at 15 I did 1 ounce of Cascade, and then for a hop stand I did 3 ounces of Cascade and 1 ounce of Columbus, and I'm going to dry hop it with 3 ounces each of Cascade and Columbus. So I knocked a pretty good dent in those 2 pounds of hops, but still got over half of them left. We'll see how this one turns out. It's my first time using this yeast. I'm looking forward to checking it out. I did the starter on it, and I can honestly say to be a Saccharomyces strain of yeast, it throws off some very unique smells from the starter. And the gas is coming off of it today. I will cut and show you a clip of the thump action. And here is the chug-a-lug action on my Trois IPA. She's kicking along real nice. So you can see it's kicking along pretty nice. The gases coming off of it are a mixture of the hops with this very unique, almost, I won't call it so much funky, but just very different type of odor and aroma coming off of the gases than I normally get from any other strain, even Belgian Hefeweizen, English ale yeast. That none of them smells like this one does. They're just, it's kind of got its own unique thing going on. So I can already tell it's going to be different from anything else I've ever done, which this is cool because I was experimenting with it and wanted to check it out. And I don't know if I'll keep doing any Trois IPAs. I'll see how I like it. One of the cool things about this yeast and doing an IPA with it is you'll wind up getting two different kinds of beers out of it. What it tastes like fresh, and with this yeast behaves like Brett. It will break all the compounds down and change their profile later, like a Brett beer does. So you put like a 12-pack of this back, which is what they recommended that I do, and I'm going to do that. Or they said just put some back. I'm going to put back a 12-pack and sit on it for 3 or 4 months and drink a few of them here along the way just to see how it changes. One of the guys on Milk with Funk said you'd be really happy if you tried that and seen how it turned out. So instead of it just losing its dry hop and flavor and aroma and being a crappy IPA that you didn't drink fast enough, this beer will actually turn into something totally different later on down the road. Be it better or worse, just different, we'll see. But they recommended doing that and said that I will be pleased with the results more than likely, so I'm going to check that out. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're doing this, doing an IPA with the Trois, is you can take your time drinking it or put some back and you'll have a different kind of beer in a couple of months. Well, anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. See you guys later on. Happy Homebrew Wednesday and cheers.